Alright, in this video we're going to talk about graphing polynomials and also writing the functions for polynomials. So, on our first question, the graphing polynomials section, we have a zero multiplicity chart and we are told that the leading coefficient is going to be negative and we need to sketch a graph. So, the first thing I want to do is go and plot all my zeros. So we have -4, -1, 0, and 5. I'm just going to go -4, -1, 0, and 5. Okay, now I want to look at my end behavior so I know kind of where to start. So for that, we know the leading coefficient is negative. We also need to know the degree. Okay, and to find the degree, you just add up all the multiplicities together. So 3 plus 4 plus 1 plus 3, that gives us 11. So our degree is going to be odd. So if we have an odd degree and it's negative, we know that on the left side, we're going to be going up to infinity, and then on the right side, I'm going to be going down to negative infinity. Okay, now to fill in the rest of the graph, we need to fill in our touch or cross for our zeros. So remember, if the multiplicity is odd, we cross. If the multiplicity is even, then we just touch it. So 3 is odd, so that's going to be a cross. 4 is even, 1 is odd, and 3 is odd. So the only one we're touching is -1. Okay, everything else is going to be crossed. So I'm going to cross -4, touch -1, cross 0, and cross 5. And there's our graph. Okay, and the proficient problem. So kind of similar to the last one, but this time we have the equation and we have to fill out our own table. So my zeros from this section, set it equal to 0. That's going to give me 0. This one, set it equal to 0. I'm going to get x equals 5. Okay, and then this one, set it equal to 0. We should get -3. Okay, so for -3, our multiplicity is 2. Okay, and that's even, so it's going to touch. On 0, we have an exponent of 1. So our multiplicity is just 1. That's odd, so it's going to cross. And on 5, we have a degree of 3, or a multiplicity of 3, I mean. And that is, again, odd, so it's going to cross. Okay, so now we also need to know our degree and leading coefficient. So our degree, again, just add all the multiplicities together. We get 6. So that's an even number. And then leading coefficient, if we look at this first section, we have -7x squared, so that's a negative. X in the second section is positive. Third section, x is positive. So negative times positive will give us a negative. So since our degree is even, that means we're going to be pointing in the same direction, right? Both up or both down. Leading coefficient being negative tells us it's going to be down. So let's plot our zeros, -3, 0, and 5. Okay, and then we're going to draw our end behavior. So both sides should be going down. Okay, and draw the rest of the graph at -3. We just want to touch, so I'm going to come back down and then cross through 0 and cross back through -5. Okay, and that's what your graph should look like on that one. Okay, now we're also going to do these the function ones. So this tells us we have our zeros and their multiplicities, and then a positive leading coefficient, and we need to write a possible function. So we take our zeros. +3 means we're going to have x minus 3. Okay, 0 means just an x. Negative 5 is x plus 5. Okay, and then we just put their multiplicities on them as powers, right? So 3 has a multiplicity of 2, so that's going to square. 0 has a multiplicity of 3. And then 5 has a negative 5 has a multiplicity of 1. So you can write a 1 or you can just leave it blank. Okay, positive leading coefficient. So since we want a positive one, we already have a positive, right? We don't really have to add anything. Okay, so that's it. And it doesn't matter what order you write these in. You might write them more like this. Again, does not matter. Usually if there's just a plain x term, we will put it out front, but again, it's the same thing. Okay, and then let's look at our graph. So basically the same thing. We have our zeros, negative 3, negative 1, and 0. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to put my negative 3, which would be x plus 3, negative 1, x plus 1, and then our 0, x squared. Or, sorry, just x. Now I'm going to go and I need to figure out if their multiplicities are even or odd. So at 3, we can see the graph just touches. Okay, it doesn't cross. That means we need an even multiplicity. Okay, you don't have to be exact in like what this graph is. We just need a possible equation. So just pick any even number. I'm just going to pick 2. Okay, then we go look at negative 1. That one crosses through. So that means we have an odd multiplicity. Okay, and 1 is odd, so you can just have a 1 there. You can put a 3, 5, whatever. Okay, and then if we look at 0, we have another touch, so we need an even number. Okay, now the last thing we need to check is our leading coefficient. So the end behavior for our graph goes like this. Okay, since they're going in opposite directions, I know it's an odd degree. Okay, and now we need to decide if the leading coefficient is positive or negative. Okay, and in this case, it's going to be negative. Okay, if you're not sure how to check that, you can look at your chart and your notes. You can also think about like a regular, like x cubed graph. The left side, the negative side, goes down to a negative, and the positive side goes up to a positive. And if the leading coefficient is negative, it would flip. So the negative side goes up to positive infinity, and the positive side goes down to negative infinity. Anyways, you should be able to recognize that. Okay, so we need a negative leading coefficient. We only have positives so far, so all I'm going to do is stick a negative out front. And again, you could put any negative number, but you can also just put a negative.